There are several methods that real estate investors use to find the best rents for their rentals. I tested the 4 most popular methods, and I'm going to share with you the pros and cons of all these methods so you can get the best rent on your properties. So the very first question anybody should ask is, why do you need to optimize rent for your rental properties? Very simple, guys. It's an investment property. You're buying it based on its potential income. If you drive that income up, what's going to be the value? Is it going to go higher or lower? Once you understand this, it's kind of like investing in a company. If you buy a company today that makes $100,000 a year and 20 years from now it makes $1 million a year, what do you think the value of the property has gone up? Probably 10 times. Same thing for rental property. If you buy a rental property that makes $100,000 a year in profit or even rent, and it goes up 10x in terms of rent and profit years from now, where do you think the value is going to go? It's obviously probably going to go up 10 times. That's why it's so important. Now, quite a while ago, I put up a poll. I got 235 votes. As a landlord, where do you want your rents to be compared to competitors? 20% is the most expensive. 62% said right in the middle. 17% cheapest, best value. Makes sense to be the spread. Guys, I 100% believe in being the most expensive. Here's why. Everyone wants to pay for better quality. You'll get a better quality tenant. You'll get less maintenance issues, and you'll have a nicer property at the banks. As much as you might think banks care about only income and all that stuff and they're numbers driven, they're emotional just like everybody else. So your goal should be get the best and highest rent. Now, that doesn't mean just charge a lot for nothing. No. Of course, you need to be able to confidently say, hey, my rents are the best because my properties are the best. The better quality your units, the higher your rent will be, the lower your expenses will be, and the less hassle you'll have with your tenants. I've had properties where I've bought where they had super low rents, a lot of hassles with the tenants. We renovated the properties, increased the rents, and then we made way more money. We drove higher rents, collections went up, and problems went down. So, what are some of these methods? Well, the first method is basically the 1% rule. Dropping 2 zeros. Let's say you find a property you want to buy for $250,000. A lot of people will say, okay, what do you need to collect in rent for that property to make sense? Drop 2 zeros. So $2,500 a month in rent. Okay, makes sense. Now, is it a good back of the napkin way of looking at things? Sure. But does it mean that you should apply the same process to your? No, because think about it this way. I just spoke about having the nicest rents. If there are 2 properties in the area, one with granite countertops, one with backsplash, one with new vanities, should you still charge the same rent the person next door to you who has the same valued property because it's a single family home that has none of those things? Of course not. In addition to that, what factors in on your rents? Well, guys, guess what? You have property taxes. You have insurance. You have permits. You have utilities. Guys, I'm sorry to break it to you. These all vary from area to area. So applying the same rule to a market like Ohio versus a market like Texas is absurd. You can't do that. Look at Georgia. So I'm looking at properties in Georgia right now. The area I'm in Georgia, their property tax rate is about 0.85% of the property value. Properties I have in Ohio are 2.5%. Look at that difference. That's 3 times more property tax for the exact same value. So a $250,000 home in Georgia, the area I'm at in Georgia, the rent would be about $2,000. The property tax would be about $2,000 a year, which is about $166 per month. That same $250,000 property in Ohio, you're looking there at $7,500 in taxes a year or $625 a month. That's a huge difference. That's $500 a month almost right there. $475 a month in different costs every single month. And that's why just dropping 2 zeros is a great initial reaction. Somebody comes to you, hey, I have a property for you. Oh yeah, how much is it? $300,000. What are the rents? It's about $4,000 a month. Okay, so maybe it's actually pretty decent. Let me go further. Method number 2, consult with a real estate agent. Guys, do not do this. I have 2 real estate agents that I work with, one in Georgia, one in Texas. I love them. They're great because they do what they're supposed to do, which to me is go find me the deal and make sure that things go according to plan. Other than that, at the end of the day, They're still commission-driven salespeople. Their job is to get deals done. So they're going to tell you the best possible rents in the situation. The one thing I love doing is whenever they pitch me a deal, I say, tell me your numbers, because I want to hear what their numbers are. And then I break it down and say, well, if we just pay yours, it just happened this morning for me on a deal in Georgia. My agent, who's awesome, came to me with the deal. I said, listen, tell me your numbers. And then when I used her numbers based on the asking price, I'd have to pay about 40% less than the asking price. Because, she was looking at it from a standpoint of how do we get the deal done, not how does Paul make the money he needs to make. You have to know where the real estate agent's role is, and that's basically to solicit you deals. You need to be in charge of that. That is the number one way to get yourself in trouble. The very first real estate deal I bought was with a broker. He looked at me right in the face. I'll never forget this. And he said to me, I'll never let you overpay. Guys, the very first big deal I did, $2.85 million for 63 units. When it was all said and done and I sold the property 12 years later, I thought to myself, going back, I should have paid about $1.9 million. The guy who wouldn't let me overpay by $950,000. Make sure you understand what the rent should be in your area. When you're buying the property, they're going to tell you the highest rents you should probably get. When you're selling the property, they're going to tell you why the rents are too high. These are the things that happen. Now, guys, really quick, if you like what you hear so far, this is our channel dedicated to real estate. I own over 1,000 apartments in multiple states and multiple countries. I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to help you become better at it. So do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. And if there's any questions you have until we get to about 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to keep commenting myself. If you see a -PG in the comments below, that's me personally responding. So drop any comments you have, any questions you have. I try to get to them every single day. Now, method number 3. This might be actually worse than talking to a real estate agent, talking to a third-party manager. Guys, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this channel, one thing and one thing only, if you can't manage the property yourself, do not buy it. I've hired 10 or 12 third-party managers in my 22 years of real estate. And I'm going to tell you one thing across the board. Every time I fired them, revenue went up, expenses went down. Quality went up, hassles went down. Third-party managers have a goal, and what that one goal is, physical occupancy. Now, you might sit there and say, well, that's a good thing. No, you want high financial occupancy. Let me tell you a story. I owned a lot of properties in a suburb of Cleveland called Shaker Heights, and there was one of our competitors owned probably double the units I had. And they always bragged they had 94, 95% occupancy. We were always in the low 90s, 91, 92, 93%. People would say, oh man, they're at 94, 95. What are you doing different? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing different. We had literally several buildings that were exactly the same. So for a 2-bedroom in one of the buildings, we were getting $1,250 to $1,295. The competitor who was 94% full was getting $950 to $995. This is so much better. So much better. But some people like saying, I want 95% occupancy. Okay, more power to you. You know what I want? I want a fat ass wallet. That's what I want. What do you want? Very simple. Now, third-party managers, their goal is that same thing. Oh, Paul, we're doing great for you. We have 95% occupancy. Let me tell you another story. I had a third-party manager in a big property in Columbus. He'd always say to me, like, oh, Paul, it's so tough to manage down here, blah, we have to give away 2 months rent. At the time, this was 10, 12 years ago, a long time ago, our 2 bedrooms are going for $650 or so with 2 months free rent to start. I fired a third-party manager. Next day, literally the next day, we got $750 in rent with no free rent, no free months. So we went from $650 with 2 free months to $750 with no free months. And guess what? Third-party management is hard. I get that. But you've got to look at people's incentives. And a third-party manager's incentive is to have less and less work. The more they keep the property occupied, the lower they keep the rent, the less people will move out. If somebody moves out, they have to do more work to turn the unit over and then lease it again. Or they can just keep the unit at low rent. That way people do not move out. Guys, we just bought a property in Louisville submarket. We had We thought it was under rented. We sat there and we thought rents could go up $600 a month. So what did we do? It was managed by a third-party manager. We went in first day, and anybody who didn't have an existing lease but still lived there, or anybody who was up in the next month, we wrote them a letter. Your rent is now $400 higher, because our goal is people to move out, and then so we can renovate and get $600 higher. So we marked the rent up $400, saying, listen, if they take the $400, we don't put money in the property, fine. Guess what? People took the $400. So that third-party manager on 200 units was missing out on $400 per month in rent potentially. It's a small sample size, but out of the 5 or 6 renewals we sent out, 2 of them took it. Let's do the math there. 200 units. Let's say 40% would have paid the premium. That's 80 units at $400 a month. What's that math, guys? 8 times 400 is 32. $32,000 a month times 12 is about $385,000 a year. That's what that property management company was costing their previous owner. This is not a fluke. I will take any property management company head to head and say, let's go head to head. That's how confident I am in this. Do not use third-party management. So what's the method I use? Well, it's this method, guys. Rental comps. Guys, we have such great access to rents now. Zillow. We have Craigslist. We have apartments.com. We have Apartment Guide. And the biggest one now has been Facebook Marketplace. They did a great job making that a place to go to. Now, the thing is, you're going to look at all these and you're going to see, don't look at Zillow's rent estimate. Highly, highly inaccurate. I always get higher rents than the rent estimate continually. But Zillow has a method of looking what's for rent. Go look at the comps in your street or 2 area. See how they're finished. Go look at how they look. Whenever we buy a property, we go to all of these, and my guys will tell me, Paul, look at this property. Look at this property. They didn't even have upgraded this. They didn't even have upgraded that. Look at the rents they're getting. And they're probably under rented. Go to all of these. Find out, okay, what are my competitors looking like? And then figure out a way, how do you get 25% higher? I'm not saying that you're going to, but make it a wow. Make it so that you can get much higher than these guys. Your goal should be to have the highest rents. You will make more money and you'll have less hassle. I can assure you of that. I've had 1,000 units. I own 1,000 units currently. I've owned 1,500 in my day. And I've never, not once, ever had it happen where I had higher rent and I regretted it. Not one time. In fact, the only thing I've regretted is not increasing my rents fast enough. So guys, as you can see, this is the best method to me. Does it take more work? Absolutely. But guys, it should take more work, because if you follow this process, I've always told people in the videos, your goal should be buy 1 good property per year. Spend your time maximizing it, because hopefully you're going to own it for a long period of time and you'll be able to build a ton of wealth by doing these things. So guys, if you want a step-by-step guide to investing in real estate, watch our next video. Thank you for your time.